You're listening to a Countout Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Ballot, the podcast where the conversation begins. I think I moved my spaces around. I'm your host, Ryan Knightsey. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the official first episode of the 2026 season. Yes, we've made it to another year, folks. Can you believe it? I can't. We've made it to another year of The Ballot. This is technically our third year, second in the public-facing realm. But we got a whole new slew of candidates. Obviously, we went through a lot of them in the sort of primer episode that was released in December, I believe. So we went through a lot of these sort of basic understanding of who these people are and sort of talking about it a little bit. But obviously, this is the first episode of the season where we're going to go fully deep diving into the careers of these individual wrestlers, or in some cases tag teams and trios of wrestlers, with our guests. And there is no better guest in the Joshi world than someone that is making their 3-time ballot appearance. Obviously, my friend and yours, friend of the podcast, my fellow co-host on Ring Post Radio, Scott Edwards. Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Happy to be back for a third time. When you said it was third time to me, I said, really? And then I thought about it. I was like, oh, yeah, this has been going on for a while. So congratulations on a third year of doing it. That's pretty cool. I know you started it, kind of as just a Patreon idea. And now you've been able to make it into something bigger, and it also earned you a vote. So I'd say it was worth it in the end.
I agree.
But yeah, I'm happy to be on for this one. I think this is a fun conversation in my head already. Perfect. Because as someone who's stared at the ballot, especially the Japan side of things, and has a lot of hope for what's to come, I think this one is as interesting as it gets.
Yeah, especially the Japan ballot has definitely opened up to a certain degree next year. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily opened up in terms of candidates per se, because obviously no one got in last year and they added 4 more people. But what it has opened up, obviously, is the sheer number of votes. So last year we had 3, moving into 5 votes this year. So I think it's the Japan region itself is very interesting for me next year, let alone the new and returning inclusions to that region. But I fully agree with you. I think obviously today, I don't think we've said the name yet. Obviously today we are discussing the career, Scotty. Not often do we talk about in a modern wrestler their full breadth of their career. And that is, of course, the career of Stardom Joshi wrestler Tam Nakano. She is someone that in 2025 fully retired from the realm of professional wrestling. She's someone that has been wrestling for, if I'm not mistaken, 10 years. I was going to say on the dot, but not on the dot. Started wrestling in 2016. But yeah, she has fully, well, as of this recording, I guess, who knows, it's professional wrestling. But as of this recording, has fully retired, obviously back in April of 2025. It's not, like I said, not often where we talk about the breadth of someone's career. And it's an interesting case, Scotty, just because it is, a small career in comparative to a lot of the Hall of Fame cases we really talk about. It's someone's career that, I don't know, it probably didn't really kick off until halfway through. So you're already talking about a small thing. So I think it's a little bit of a question of how impactful of a career it may be. But I think we'll definitely dive into a lot of different aspects of Tam Nakano's career. So I'm very excited to talk to you about her and her career. But first off, Scotty, like I do with every podcast on the ballot here, I want to ask you, what is your connection to Tam Nakano?
I went into Joshi right around the time her major push began, and I think for me, as someone who's then gone back and seen, her early work, it's one of the most fascinating rises I think I've ever seen in pro wrestling. It's not one that in some ways was supposed to happen. And it's one that helped lift Stardom to a height that had never been imagined, I think, in some ways, never could have been imagined. And, all the way until her final match, she was doing things that I think were never expected of her in many ways. And to me, she's one of the most intriguing people to talk about when it comes to this Hall of Fame because I think for her, and I'll make the comparisons as we go throughout this, but like people talk about like for example, like Becky Lynch's case and you're like, oh, is it long enough? And I'm like, well, Tam's wasn't very long either.
Yeah,
It was probably longer than when Becky was like fully on top, like the top guy
sure.
per
Mhm.
se. Um, but it's an interesting conversation because I think there is so many different directions to go down when it comes to Tam Nakano, and to see her on this list, um, like you said, we're talking about a modern candidate who is retired, makes it such a fascinating conversation, and I mean, it really is, from the word go for her, her career is a very steady, like, liftoff, there
Mhm.
is a constant, rising for her to a level that, again, like I said at the very beginning, wasn't imaginable. I, as someone who watched her and have seen every major match she's had, I'm just amazed to think of the level she got to, and I will say this before we get into the full conversation.
Sure.
There is no doubt in my mind that she should be up for nomination, because of her impact, because of what she's done, and because of what she did literally until the final bell, the final appearance we've ever had of her. It is a she is one of a
Emphasis on
kind.
appearance.
Yes.
It is. She has disappeared off the face of the
Y
earth since
yes.
then.
She is a one of a kind conversation, I think, and that's why I'm very happy to have it today.
Yeah, I find this I'm glad you brought up the Becky Lynch of it all because I do think that in a way there is similarities to
Mhm.
their sort of case. Obviously, the big difference being just the scope of
Sure.
promotion between Stardom and WWE. But this idea of, on the surface, with Tam Nakano, I think a lot of people are looking at someone who is a pretty solid wrestler, obviously, but someone that like had a very short peak,
Yep.
that helped, that made them like the number one star in Stardom for a period of time. I think there's an argument that we talk about it in sort of the comparisons there, but there's also the contrasting thing of did I mean I don't know if Becky, we talk about Becky as this like massive star for WWE for about year and a half, 2 years or so, in terms of that peakage. But it is the question of like does WWE like business expand while Becky
Right.
is the star?
Sure.
Whereas I think it's fair to say that business sort of expanded under Tam Nakano. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, there's the media thought of like, is it fully her? Is there other like Saya Kamatani's obviously there as well? I think the obviously during her rise as well and during her peak period, that's also when like Rossi leaves and Bushiroad sort of fully starts managing and they bring in Taro Okado. So there's also like other factors to all these sort of things, but she
Yeah.
is someone that is certainly like she is the big star during this period of time, and a lot of growth for the company happens practically at her helm. So
Yeah.
I think it is an interesting thing because when we talk about significance in sort of drawing, I think there is something there. How much, how long, we'll get into the weeds of it some more, Scotty. But I think that is the sort of biggest like talking point, the biggest sort of uh, uh, aspect of her case is the significance of her as a star in terms of the changing of the business for the promotion.
Yeah. Yeah, there will be an interesting, topic point to talk about here in a little bit too in terms of her drawing ability and that, because I do think it is noteworthy the shows she main events, the size of those shows at the time, the feeling of those shows at the time, because even, some of her numbers are COVID affected as well, and I think that will be part of this, but,
Oh, sure.
um, she is someone that was counted on for the biggest main events time and time again, counted on for the biggest spots, and, just her popularity alone, I think for many probably many voters on this won't fully understand, won't fully grasp how popular she was, even though it was a short time, and especially how popular she was really from 2021 to her very last match.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Well, before we get into a lot of those conversations, I think in a classic sense, Scotty, sorry, I gotta leave Ring Post Radio, Scotty, to the wayside. We're here, Joshi Professional Scott, Scott E, the letter E. Um, Before we move anything else, I think that's obviously, as we typically do, we got to talk ball a little bit, talk about the sort of work rate, the working ability
Yeah.
of Tam Nakano. And I want to obviously start with you first. Is how do you see Tam as a professional wrestler?
Truly, truly the most mind twisting wrestler I've ever watched in my life. And I say that because she has had her moments of like, what are we doing? She's had her moments of like true top of the line greatness.
Mhm.
And like I think Tam Nakano, if you look at her top 5 matches, and I'm not basing this off a cage match, but just like historically her top 5 matches.
Don't worry, I got the cage match and
Oh,
rupture
I'm sure you
ratings as
do.
well.
But like if you look at her top matches and you put them really against anyone, they're as strong as you could do it. Now, most of them are like against the same people, which is funny, but I think for her, she's never been the best worker in the room. I want to say that first and foremost. Tam Nakano was never the best worker in terms of just like full on wrestling,
we
but
we we
which
talked last episode you were on. We talked about Io Shirai, and that is
yeah,
probably the best worker in the history of Stardom.
right. I mean the best two workers are it's Io and Mayu, and they pretty much like once Io left, Mayu is like that's
Yeah,
essentially how it went, and then obviously only until Mayu left that changed, and guess what? That's the same day Tam left. So it's like there was never a day Tam Nakano I think was the best in-ring worker in Stardom, but there is a case that she was the best in-ring storyteller,
sure.
and she could also sometimes be a headache of a storyteller as well. Like, I'm just gonna be honest.
We'll
The
talk about
to
that.
to
What are
tell
some
the
examples
to
of
tell
those?
the Tam Nakano story is to tell her full story, and there was she was not perfect.
No.
She wasn't.
People, listeners of our audio, longtime listeners of it, I don't know if we ever like fully talk about it because this might be a different audience, but Scotty and I also do a show every single week called Ring Post Radio where we talk about professional wrestling. We've been doing that show for 4 years, I think, at this point,
Yeah, a
four or
long
five
time.
years. So we've been kind of also like been in real time reacting to Tam Nakano's
Yeah.
entire like career to a certain degree. Obviously, you more
Yeah,
so
I think
with
starting in 2022, so yeah.
that sounds right. So we've been sort of like talking about it as well in real time. There were many moments where me on the show, you can listen to it, and I'm like, I'm going through it sometimes. Where it's like, there's some matches where I'm like, oh man, Tam was great in here, and there's some matches where
Yeah.
I think I at one point I just called her like she is like the Naito of professional wrestling, where it's like when she decides to turn it on, boy
Yeah.
howdy does she turn it on. But God damn, does Tam
Yeah.
have those moments where you can see she does not
There's
care in the ring.
there's many times where yeah, I mean, for as long as I remember, I think a lot of it comes to her, being someone who was very beat up in her career and parts that she didn't take many time. She only took time off really once, in the when she was a top star, I should say. She did take time off before that, but um, and that was when she had to drop the world title. So like it was a serious level of being beat up, you know. Um, I think Tam Nakano. I think the best thing I could say about her truly is that whatever match she had, there was always a conversation around it. And I think that's important because whether you loved it or hated it, especially if you're a Joshi fan, it was talked about. It was remembered.
Mhm.
And I think for so many other wrestlers, you know, they can have great matches. They can have these great moments and you may just never remember said match, you know? Like I think that's a very current day wrestling thing as a whole where you know, like people are like, "Oh, it was a 5-star match." And then, you know, I talk about this all the time with you. It's like I'm never going to remember what that was. Like
Yeah.
I'm just not. But like
We
I'm
reached the point in like where 4-star matches like come and
right.
go.
Yeah, 4 star matches especially, they're just like you're not gonna remember most of them unless they were like they got to 4 stars for a dramatically different reason than
Sure.
just in-ring quality. But I will say this about Tam Nakano, I stare at her top few matches, you know? Obviously, the retirement match with Saya Kamatani,
Mhm.
the loser leaves Stardom match with Saya Kamatani, and the big 3 with Julia that I always like to highlight, which is All-Star Dream Cinderella, All-Star Grand Queendom, and then the 5-star final. Those are sensational. The Arisa Shiki match is legitimately like the forgotten Tam Nakano match now because a lot of people came in post Bushi Road and never
Yeah.
went back to see it.
This
That
was
to
in
me is
2019.
that to me is still the best match Tam Nakano's ever had. It's a I don't think it's a scorching hot take because like Cage Match is not like not backing me up. It's second, so it's not like it's
Cage match has it at 9.36
yeah.
is the
It
rating.
it and it's really I think one of those times where Tam Nakano is able to showcase that storyteller version of herself in full force that makes her a main eventer, that makes her an undeniable main eventer. You also have to remember about Tam Nakano, is she was never supposed to be world champion. Like that and we'll talk about that more in the other parts of this. I know, but like when I talk about these matches with Julia, specifically, that rivalry was not the rivalry. I just want everyone to know that. And I think that's gonna be the fascinating conversation about Tam is how she became a absolute bona fide superstar despite potentially never needing to be that once upon a time. And this is also someone, mind you, that when she won the Wonder of Stardom Championship in 2021, she had said immediately after, "It's like, yeah, I'll probably retire in like 8 months." Like, she said that. Like, this is someone who talked about retirement and thought about retirement for a long time because she was on the older side anyways when she was really getting going in
Mhm.
terms of Joshi, not like people. You know,
Yeah.
she's not old. But I think that's like a fascinating part of this too. Is like so much of her glory, so much of her biggest moments came after a period. She was like, "Yeah, I'll probably retire by then." And I think that is just incredible. But like I said, when it comes to the work rate, she has some sensational top of the line matches. She's one of my favorite 5-star Grand Prix wrestlers of all time. Yes, she's going to take some nights off during that tournament, but when she's
But
on,
don't we
she,
all?
well, yeah, but when she's on, she's on. Like she has some of my favorite 5-star matches ever, including I think arguably the best final. I would favor like one other final over it, but arguably the best final. Her work stands for itself. The only times it wouldn't is when she gets in her own way, for whether that be trying to overly tell something in a story, which is fine. I rather you try and tell a story than not, or you know, like you said earlier, kind of just takes the night off, which is just something some wrestlers do. Um, but when she's on the biggest stage, she never took the night off. I'll give her that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is there's an argument of there is if you had to give grace to Tam, there is an argument of taking nights off and not going full breath because she worked a very hard hitting style, a
Yeah,
big heavy duty striker,
right.
basically, as far as I know, from the beginning of her career.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, she did like she was in FMW once upon a time. Like
yeah,
she did some crazy stuff in
yeah.
her like in her early days.
obviously that's not like a full excuse for like a Hall of Fame level thing of like,
Yeah.
I would love for her to never take the nights off, obviously,
Yeah.
but you know, like Naito took nights off, and
Right,
he's
Naito's a Hall of Famer. Like,
yeah,
when I
to
say
be fair, I don't think anyone's saying Hall of Fame. Naito's a Hall of Fame wrestler, but still, we all know what
I
I'm saying.
mean, he's a Hall of Fame big match wrestler.
And I think that's part of
Yeah.
the Tam working style.
Yeah.
She is a big match wrestler.
Yeah, and I rather honestly, this is maybe a hot take. I rather a big match wrestler than one that maybe can't hit that level of the big match. You know, like there's some people just like the among the greats of all time, and they can do both. But some people are one or the other, and I rather the big match wrestler any day of the week because then you know on the biggest stage you can count on this person. They're gonna give you something to remember, and that's the big thing about Tam. For better or worse, I remember her best. I remember her worst. You know, and that is something that I can't say for everyone. I remember the matches I didn't love, but I absolutely remember the matches I did, you know, and she has some of the most historic matches in Stardom's history, some of the most memorable. If you were to make a top 25, you know, they're celebrating their 15th anniversary this year. If you were to poll like 100 people, what's the top 15 matches in Stardom? She's going to be in there probably a few times.
Yeah, just to give you some stats there. Obviously, you mentioned a lot of the high level matches. Kamatani, her retirement match, her All Star Grand Queendom. Hoshiki, some Julia matches. There's a Hayashi Shida match that gets high ratings from Dave. 5-star Grand Prix in 2022. 39 matches. This is all this data is from when I pulled it. It could be old, especially the ballot comps that I'm going to be making in terms of data here, Scotty. But at least, especially, you know, depending on when people listen to this. But as of right now, in January of 2026, 39 matches rated 8 or higher on Cage Match, 5 rated 9 or higher. Some comps there. I mean, immediately going to what you're speaking to, Io Shirai had 66 matches rated 8 or higher on Cage Match. These are, and that's also, I think, what's interesting going to Io Shirai there is that a lot of her time in Stardom was like before Cage Match, especially viewing
Before
from
Cage
American
Match,
stance.
before Bushi Road too, obviously.
Cage Match voting and rating
Yeah.
and whatnot before Bushi Road, before like American
she'd have
Western
more.
people viewed it. But she does have, you know, a decent amount more. Obviously, some other ballot comps there. Zack Sabre Jr. leading the pack, 204 rated 8 or higher. Mochizuki 46 rated 8 or higher. So pretty close to Tam Nakano there. Kenta 94 matches rated 8 or higher. Dave, obviously a little bit smaller, 16 matches rated 4 or higher by Dave Belzer, 3 matches rated 5 or higher by Dave. That's very obviously that Dave didn't really start rating matches like and watching Stardom, I think, in a regular appearance until like 21, I want to say.
Kind of. I mean, I think last year was probably the most regular he's done it overall.
He's obviously did it before that, like during Io Shirai periods and
he
whatnot.
did one EO match ever.
Oh yeah.
One.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, he did one EO versus Mayu match ever. Otherwise, he's never rated like any of them. Like there is, unfortunately, when it comes to this, and I know this is about his Hall of Fame and the Observer Hall of Fame, it's like you can't really count on his stuff for the Joshi. And
Correct.
I think that hurts them a lot because that's what a lot of people look to,
especially like historical, like Io Shirai or something like that.
Yeah, like Io
historical, historical like Io Shirai.
Historical, like the person that main evented WrestleMania that last year. Not main event, but you get my point. I think with Tam, like that is the perfect description though. Like there's gonna be a lot of matches under the 8 that some people adored.
Yeah.
And then some people despised. Like
yeah. There was a good amount of matches where I was like, I'm not into Tam.
Right. There's a lot of those. And like for me, I think we've all experienced, unless you're a super Tam fan, which there's plenty, like there was most likely that feeling along the way, one way or the other. She was always the most interesting wrestler for me to recommend to someone because I'm like, I don't know if you'll like this. Like that's not for her biggest matches. That's a lot for like the periodic, like say her title reigns or something.
Sure.
Like her title reigns are kind of the definition of it. her World of Stardom title reigns are like oddly not that major in terms of like big matches either, outside of like who she lost to the second time. Um, like that's kind of the reality, and who she and how she won the first time. Like that is the history of her title reigns. But the thing with her is like it goes so much more beyond that. And that's really like the conversation point that puts her on this ballot. It's not to me the title reigns or necessarily the work rate, but the work rate is something that I think if you were to ask me, is it a plus or a minus for her? I still think it's a plus because of her big match performances.
Yeah, it's definitely in the positive direction for Tam Nakano. I think it's fair. I think you'd fully agree with me here. So she's now a Hall of Fame worker, but and that's not her biggest thing here. But it's not like, I mean, I don't know. I'm settling like I'm probably more minus on it than like a lot of other like Joshi pins. I'm saying like I'm saying at minimum it's probably a really good wrestler. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? She
yeah,
she has these ups and downs. She has these moments where she's into it. A lot of it is story driven, right? You know, these
yeah.
moments, these
She's a
main these
great storyteller, but I think you could say
talk
like a good in
talk to us
ring.
about a little bit. You've been obviously following Joshi wrestling for several years now. Like you said, a lot of it is during Tam's run. Just can you describe to the audience what makes her a great storyteller? What are some examples of her storytelling abilities in
Yeah.
professional wrestling?
She always went the extra mile in a genre of wrestling that for fans that aren't Japanese is hard to follow overall, you know? Like when you watch storytelling in an American promotion, you're getting it told to you in so many ways, right?
And
You
sometimes too
understand.
much.
Right, you hear the promos,
Mhm.
you get the big video packages, you get all these different things. In Japanese wrestling, it's a different way of experiencing it. It has to be in the in-ring based. But for Tam, she found a way to also kind of put that in center stage. And this is just kind of the reality of the world we live in now. Before any major match she had, she would have this long ass Twitter thread about the history of her matches with this person. And I remember reading every single one of them because everyone like on Joshi Twitter would be like, "Up, new Tam thread just dropped like 24 hours before," and it's like 10 plus tweets. And
Mhm.
like people may be hearing this and like that story. Yes, in a time which I think she really embraced this in COVID and then just kept doing it. But in a time where so many new fans are coming in, so many new fans, and there's no English commentary, the ability to just press translate on Twitter or bring it and translate it to the best of your ability does a lot more good than just kind of hoping that someone actually translates the promos and someone actually translates the whatever. And it goes beyond that. In the matches itself, she would very much try to tell those stories. I think anyone that watches pro wrestling knows what in-ring storytelling is. She would she would do the over dramatic moments. b- I- Maybe better than everyone. She'd do it more than everyone. I know that. Like that is the reality. But she used every tool she had to tell stories. Whether it was promos, whether it was in ring, whether it was social media, whether it was an interview, like a lot of storytelling now in wrestling comes in interviews. We just talked about you and me talked about it a lot with the Yoda Suji thing. Like a lot of that story that got people excited was the AEW comments in an
the
interview
the Yoda
online.
Suji build up to Wrestle Kingdom
Yeah,
20.
like, that is how people are kinda pushing their stories nowadays, right? I think some old head wrestler said, like, "It's so much easier now because you just have online and you can just say something," and they're like, "Oh, yeah, we'll run with that." And it's like,
Which, to be fair, Tam, you literally just said Tam had a Twitter thread of her telling her stories.
yes, yes, like, this is someone who used every tool to tell her stories, all the way down to the match. There's a reason the Saya Kamatani Tam Nakano rivalry and story and match is as special as it is to so many people. It's
Mhm.
because that story was told for years. She will bless her heart, she will find something and twist it into a bigger story than it probably is 9 times out of 10. She did that with Natsupoi when Natsupoi ultimately ended up joining Cosmic Angels and all that. She was like, "Well, we were an actress girls together all these years ago and outside of Stardom," and, like, she will use every factoid, everything she's ever done with a person to the best of her ability. She is like the opposite of WWE. She doesn't forget her own history. She embraces her own history. You know? That I think that's like the best thing I could say for someone is embracing history when you're trying to tell a story, whether it was 5 years ago, whether it was a year ago, you know? Like
Yeah.
her career wasn't long, but these wrestlers do a lot. You know, they're working every weekend and all these different things. You can forget it. And if she did a promo that was like in the middle of nowhere or like before show, she'll reference that. Um, I will always call Tam Nakano a fantastic storyteller because she's someone that cared about the story more than I think anything else in her wrestling. And I think that's what really lifts up any case in terms of her like in-ring non-historical significance or stuff like that. You know, I think that is what aids her. And I think that's why so many fans connected with her. From the
Mhm.
moment Cosmic Angels formed in 2021, they're the most popular faction, and she's the most popular wrestler. Not only in Stardom, but in Japan. You know, like there would be polls, right? And it would be like Shoe Pro or what's the other what you know, like Pro Wrestling Magazine or stuff like that.
Tokyo
And like
Sports.
Tokyo Sports, and like this isn't for their awards, it's just like who's the most popular wrestler. Oh, there was this like really big TV show one year. I never remember the TV show. I get yelled at for not remembering stuff on Japanese television. Um, but I remember it was like, oh, it's like Naito and Tanahashi and Tam Nakano, and it's like, huh? What do you mean it's Tam Nakano? Like that is the popularity that she earned in the height of those New Japan names. You know, she was ranking, and it's like that's fascinating. But it's because of the way she tells stories, the way she embraces things, that I think made fans connect with her more than ever. And truthfully, Ryan, a lot of people really miss her right now, Stardom included. Like this is someone that people are talking about and talking about like we miss Tam. Tam's needed. All these different things. Like the numbers say she's not. Like she did everything she could to help
Yeah.
propel this company to the levels they are. But that storytelling that she brought to the table mostly gone.
I wonder if that is why Tam, as we sort of move into like the drawing conversation of everything, I wonder if that's a little bit why Tam was so popular, is because it's not that there wasn't storytelling in Joshi wrestling, obviously. At least in a modern sense, right? Obviously, there was a lot of storytelling back in the 80s, 90s, and whatnot, 70s. But at least in a modern sense, like when you talk about a lot of the Joshi wrestling, you talk about more so like just the working ability of these
Yeah.
wrestlers,
Yeah.
and you talk about these different aspects, and you look at like Io Shirai as an example.
Yeah.
The thing that comes to my head is that like there's the moments of like Io Shirai where they're trying to tell a story of the heel turn, and the crowd's like, "No, we're good," they're just sort of rejecting the
Right.
story, and I'm not really interested into it, sort
Right.
of.
That was a story they were trying to tell.
And it just
Yeah.
like didn't work, and that's an element of like storytelling ability for Io
They just
Shirai and
love her.
Rossi as a whole,
Yeah.
right? But like, what maybe that is there's an argument of why Tam connected so well with audiences is because she was actively telling stories through different means outside
Yeah.
of then just wrestling and however much promo time you get.
Yeah. There's a there's plus and minuses to the way um Rossi specifically like allowed his he allowed wrestlers freedom.
Mhm.
You could tell whatever you could tell your own story for better or worse for some wrestlers.
Yeah.
But he gave you kind of the blank canvas to do that. And it was Tam who ran with that, you know? Like there was very few times really when she became a main event level wrestler. So 2020 and on.
Mhm.
that she was doing nothing moving
Yeah.
forward. Like, she was always involved, and a lot of that, I think, is one, she's a big star, so she's always gonna be kept involved, duh. But there are times, in Bushiroad's run, whether Rossi's running or Taro, where wrestlers disappear. Like, you don't hear from them. You don't do anything. I mean, we've been talking about Shuri for like 4 years now, like since she's lost the world title, right? Like, yeah, she's the IWGP Women's Champion, but that was like until recently. Otherwise, she's done nothing. Like, that is just a reality of the present day, I think. And it comes down to wrestlers sometimes running and doing what they need to do unless there's a specific story that's being told elsewhere. Like, the world champion is going to get the big story, the Wonder of Stardom champion is going to get the big story, and then everyone else, it's like, tell your own, figure out yourself. And in many ways, that freedom does so much good for someone like a Tam Nakano, because guess what? She's going to take it. She's going to tell her own story. And in the end, it's going to work out for her. Doesn't work out for everyone because some people just aren't the storyteller she is.
Yeah, and I think in a promotion where that external storytelling arm of it all is more of a rarity than like
Yeah.
a WWE or even
Right, right,
AEW
right.
at this point. Like I wonder if that is sort of the leg up that she gets on over from everyone else. And because there's an argument of like that is a thing that can help bring in other fans and other the casuals into it all, I guess. Speaking of that, let's move into that drawing conversation. Obviously, listeners of the show know that I'm a big old nerd and I have a big old spreadsheet that goes into it. And look, folks, last time I think we talked about Io Shirai, I got up to 2018, and this time I finish it up to 2025. So I got a bunch of data
Kinda
on.
had to for this one, huh?
I kind of had to for this one. So obviously I have a bunch of data on Tam Nakano here and Stardom as a whole. And I sent you a graph, Scotty, that showcased that Stardom was not doing. This is small, very tiny, like on average, maybe like 400 to 500 average
Yep.
attendance. Got a little smaller. Then COVID happened, and then things just
Did you
explode.
consider doing one with just Corkin and big shows?
I
Because
I don't have the Korikens here, but I do have all of the 1,000 plus attendances that Tam Nakano either
okay,
main evented or
'cause
semi main evented.
I
Which
don't mean to
most of
give
those are
you
probably Korikens and
I don't
the
mean
big
to give you,
shows.
like, extra homework because
I have
I'm
to
sure you
add the
don't need it.
arenas. The thing is, Scotty, I don't have
But
the arenas listed.
'cause I do think when it comes to, like, a Stardom or a Dragon Gate specifically, like the
Sure.
smaller companies, basing attendance off of those events would do
Yeah,
like,
especially I
give
know
a
like
better feeling
I think that's
maybe of,
fair.
like, those years. I'm not saying, like, it's bad to have, like, the small arenas, but, like, some of those small arenas, man, they only fit 250 people.
Oh, I know. That's
You
why I
know?
looked at like the 1,000 plus attendance
Yeah, yeah,
because I
that's
didn't
why
have I
right,
the web I was copying and pasting a lot of the stuff from wrestling
yeah,
data, and they don't have the
venue.
buildings venues
Okay, yeah.
listed. Some people I know,
That would be something I'd be willing to work on with you, like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I do
I
think it
appreciate
it
that.
would be more interesting to have, like, the cork in main
Agreed.
event
Look, the
number.
history of like Cork and attendance for Stardom.
Yeah, because I think
I
that's
agree.
probably the best barometer of
Well, I
because that's what we're basing off of in 2025, right? It's like they're having the biggest cork in numbers in Japan,
Mhm. Yeah,
like, that's what they were doing, like, plain and simple, and they were the biggest numbers since pre-COVID.
yeah.
So, like,
Well,
I this is me just adding more work to the
I was
idea
gonna
of,
say, well,
like,
here it is, folks. I'm presenting my data, and Scotty said, "Here's some more. Here's some more
well,
homework."
I'm only
No, but I
saying
don't
it because
disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. I know that,
it
like,
hurts a lot of these wrestlers, not because, like, again, there's just such small shows. They're running nearly 100 shows a year, if not more, and some attendances can be 250, some can be 4,000, some can't be more than 155, like,
yeah,
especially in the early years. Um,
I know that
if this company was more than 15 years old, I'd say don't do it, but hey, guess what?
I have the time. I know I've
I
seen
did not
it.
say you had the time.
Well, yeah, that's certainly not true. I know I've seen it. I don't. I remember it was in my Google Sheets at some point. I want to say it was like Mike Spears put together data for like Dragon Gate that was more like that of,
Yeah.
looking at buildings and history of the buildings and sort of things. And I don't have that data readily available. And that's gonna, and I just finished 2025.
To just make like a notable thing, like most
Notable thing, and I think Scotty froze. Well, that's fine. While Scotty unfreezes himself from the Boston cold, I will say, yeah, look, I do have the 1,000+ attendance data, and I'll go through sort of the year by years here as well. But sort of I can give you that immediate 1,000+ attendance data here. Oh, Scotty's doing a timeout. He's unfrozen.
I just lost everything. I haven't heard anything you just said for the past 5 minutes.
I figured as much. What I was going to say was, look, yeah, we don't have the buildings here listed, but we do. That's why I kind of went with the 1,000+ attendance, because when Korakuen halls get to pretty close to capacity, you're reaching that 1,000+ number, and then you have obviously all the big time shows past that.
The main point I was making before that happened was a lot of Tam's biggest matches, like, they happen in a Korakuen or bigger. So like all of her highest rated matches are that, except for like maybe one or two, so
sure,
like
yeah.
she's a very unique one of like, oh, I could find this pretty easily for her.
Well, I'll give you an immediate comp here, Scotty. We talked about Io Shirai. I did the same data points pulling for 1,000+ attendance for her main events and main and semis. So Io Shirai, 1,000+ attendance main events. She was in 9 of them. The combined main and semi-main events for Io Shirai, 1,000+ attendance, 19. Here's the comp. Here's the comp for hold those numbers in your head. Here's the comp for Tam Nakano. 1,000+ main events, 32.
Yeah.
From 9 to 32.
Yeah.
One that combined number of main and semis, we go from 19 with Io Shirai to Tam Nakano, 51. I mean, yes, this is a period where Stardom is way bigger of a promotion.
Sure.
But look, we're looking at way more buildings wrestling in way more buildings with bigger attendance here.
Yeah, I love talking about like Stardom's history because I just don't think you could treat it the same as most of the other histories of companies that you're going to talk about like throughout this season for other wrestlers, because it's a company that was run by like a single guy for like a decade, and then the biggest company in Japan that runs pro wrestling bought it, and then it's like, oh shit. But that being said, the conversation of like Tam is very exciting because she becoming a big star essentially goes hand in hand with Bushiroad buying the company. So it really aids her in that. It really does.
Yeah, obviously Bushiroad buys Stardom Q4 of 2019. And I guess just as part of the whole thing, Rossi doesn't leave until Q1 of 2024. And then, next quarter, New Japan acquires Stardom from that point, which is Bushiroad, New Japan.
Yeah, it was just to put them under the same banner.
Exactly.
Make their lives easier.
Exactly. Make the books a little bit cleaner, I would have to imagine.
Yeah, because Bushiroad Fight was a thing, which was literally like just Stardom.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, why do we have a separate company?
I took a bunch of the years and the placements of how Tam Nakano has done year every year, how the entire roster does in terms of average attendance as a product of percentage on top. How often are you on top of the card, and what is how is that compared to the average attendance or the attendances of those card? And you know what I'm trying to say here. Average attendance by percentage on top. And Tam Nakano has 4 top 5 finishes in the year. Those years are 2018, where she's the 5th biggest wrestler, biggest name. 2021, where she's 3rd. 2023, she's also 3rd. In 2024, she's only 2nd. Now, 2025 gets a little bit of an asterisk for sure, because it's the whole, this is the whole year we're talking about, and she was only there until April.
4 months.
Yeah, so she is the 11th biggest name of 2025.
Pretty good for 4 months.
So yeah, pretty good for 4 months. I do
Nearly top
have
10.
where was the little bit here? So I do have like obviously like what I do on my chart here. If you go to year 2025, and all this chart and all this data is available in the description below, folks. What I do is I take I average out all the attendance numbers when you're main or semi main eventing a show, and I do have like a little thing next to it that is sort of a number that is what is that average attendance for Tam Nakano compared to the average attendance of Stardom as a whole. You
Yeah.
know, is it how much higher, how much
Right.
lower?
Right. Right.
For a lot of people, a lot of wrestlers, it's lower because
Yeah.
they're not, there's only a couple
Stardom.
massive stars that are on big shows. Um, Tam Nakano, her average attendance in 2025 is a 1169, 1100 show. Whenever she was on a show, main or semi-main eventing, the average attendance was 1100. That is 344 people on average more than the Stardom's average attendance in 2025. Yeah. So again, 4 months, massive impact, but for all intents and purposes, barely there for 2025, right?
Still important though. I still think that's very notable.
This isn't taking anything away from her.
But she worked every show for 4 months.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that she's also a slouch at all as well. 2019, she's ranked 8th. 2020, ranked 7th. 2022 also ranked 7th. And like I said, the 11th in 2025. So she's basically top 10 biggest star in Stardom from 2018 to 2024, if you can believe it. Now, I did take the average of all those rankings and just sort of compared it to a bunch of other wrestlers. Io Shirai is ranked number 1 as the sort of
2018 when she became full time with the company. So.
Exactly. Io Shirai is ranked number 1 as being like the most highest ranked person consistently in her time period. Tam Nakano is a little bit down for people that are above Tam Nakano here. Io Shirai, Kagetsu is number 2. Kairi Hojo is a little bit down at 3.6. Mayu Iwatani also 3.6. Here's some contemporary. Saya Kamitani 4.1. Julia 5. And then Tam Nakano 5.1. Tam Nakano, like I said, 4 top 5 placements. Io Shirai had 5 top 5 placements. Mayu Iwatani, Scotty, 10 top 5 placements. She's the only the next highest is 5, and Mayu has 10.
Keep that data, buddy.
Keep that data for 3 years from now. Probably.
This is her 15th year though, so
that's true.
Next year.
That's true. It's probably next year. Sai Kamitani is another contemporary, since we're all talking about it as well. 3 top 5 placements. Julia also with 3 as another example. And I can pull some other numbers here or more names.
I appreciate your numbers, Ryan.
But I appreciate that, of course, Scotty. But what I'm saying here is that she is consistently at the top of the card, and she is consistently at the top of the card as the company is growing. I think is also significant. Look, there is a period where Stardom, from about, let's say 2015 to basically COVID, the year-over-year averages slowly are going down, and she pops up in 2018, 2019. And 2020, it's again, as we all know, big old asterisks. 2021, things start popping up. Average attendance, 469. 2022 for Stardom, 735. 2023, 722. 2024, go down weirdly, 659. 2025, 800. Yeah, in 24, the average attendance is.
Do you remember 2024 for Stardom? It was a mess.
I barely. Oh, it was a mess.
That's when Rossi got fired. And then they weren't great.
Things weren't necessarily going great. What was I saying? But yeah, so Tam Nakano, like I'm saying, and then 2025, 824 average attendance for that year. Tam Nakano, while she's on top, the company is growing. There are obviously other people that are helping surround it. Like I said, Saya Kamitani also does really well, and she's someone that pops up fairly quickly. She's like number 6 ranked in 2021, pretty much after COVID on. I think it's Saya Kamitani. Basically,
we need to
constantly
say Julia's
up top.
name way more. I just need to say this because you just said her name for the first time when talking about Tam Nakano.
Sure.
The fact that was the first time we said Julia's name is
You talked about her
mind-numbing
matches.
to me.
You talked about the matches a little bit.
Kind of. Like, that is
Julia really has like 4 great years, and then 2024, which she's there for a couple months.
seconds. 20,
Yeah.
yeah, she left at the same time Rossi did.
Same sort of asterisk with Tam
Like,
Nakano.
Tam and Julia's feud is the one that's the Bushiroad feud.
Yeah.
Like, that's what everyone calls the feud of the Bushiroad run. It's them two because they become the people that they lean on in terms of the biggest shows.
Yeah.
I know we didn't get there yet, but you brought up Julia, so you know me. I like to sidetrack.
Well, the point here also is that Julia and Tam Nakano extremely similar, based on my data, extremely similar in terms of drawing power.
Yeah, fun fact, Ryan. This has nothing to do with deciding Tam Nakano's fate here. But Tam fans hate Julia, and Julia fans hate Tam.
Interesting.
And it's really funny.
I do enjoy Julia a little bit more than Tam Nakano.
Well, it's really funny because they're so similar in every way. Like, that is why they worked. They both hit really hard. They're both like not the most athletic people in the world, but they're gonna give it their all. And you know, they could have a bad match here and there, but that's not the point.
Also, commitment to the bits, right? I mean, Julia shaved her own head.
Right. Like, these two are very similar, but also very different. Like, the way they do things. Like, Tam was an idol, Julia was not. You know, like, there's a lot of differences between them, but at the end of the day, like, the reason they work so well together is because when it comes down to the bell ringing, they were there for violence. They were there for telling their story. And I just want to bring up that feud because when you think of the great feuds of Joshi since the 2010s, that is right up there. That is, I know recency bias would say otherwise, but that is for many people still like the main Tam Nakano feud. I know the Saya Kamatani stuff is very recent and has the big numbers attached to it, but I mean, the Julia feud was essentially what helped make both of them.
One other point here in terms of drawing for Tam Nakano, for those that are untrustworthy of Japanese attendance data, which I think at this point,
a lot of people,
which is completely fair. But I do know that a lot of that is older data. Bushiroad tends to announce, not tends to it, but I believe they just pretty much announce actual shoot data points, Scotty. So a lot of this is, you know, Bushiroad numbers that we're pulling from for Tam stuff. But if you want to look at it just longevity on top, how does she fare in terms of we're taking attendance off the board? How well does she fare in you know, how many main events, how many semi-main events she does? A little bit worse, only one top 5 placement, that being in 2024. But there's 2020 and 2021 where she's ranked 6. 2018 ranked 8, and then ranked 11 in 2019, 2022, and 2023. So it's a little bit worse. It's not as great. I think it's something to say there that she isn't always on top, but when she is on top, she is having an impactful difference. That's kind of the conclusion I draw from that data.
Sure.
There are certainly people that are, you know, have longer longevity on top for Tam Nakano here, but the point is that when she is wrestling on top, she tends to be maybe for the more important shows or for shows that tend to draw a little bit better. Let's say a Korakuen, perhaps, things that he's in a more important role if she is on that card. Is there any other things to talk about here when it comes to drawing? I threw a bunch of numbers, threw a bunch of data. Like I said, folks, if you want to go search the data, which I highly recommend you do, because I spent so much time on it, I would appreciate it if you did. Then go, obviously, it's in the description right now. You can go check that out right now. But is there any big points there that you want to talk about for her drawing power?
I mean, she main evented essentially the back-to-back record breakers. You know, like, All-Star Grand Queendom 2023 was her and Julia in the main event. That was the biggest attendance at the time for a Stardom show. And then she beat it again with her retirement match at All-Star Grand Queendom 2025, which was 7,000 plus, the biggest Stardom, the biggest Joshi show in decades. That was because of Tam. You know, like her retirement road essentially was a box office attraction in every which way. You know, it wasn't said to be a retirement road, but like fans caught on and it made for the biggest show in Stardom's history. Um All-Star Dream Cinderella is an important one because people will kind of overlook it, I think, when you look at like stats or whatever. All-Star Dream Cinderella was in COVID, mind you. But at the Nippon Budokan, they did 3,318 during COVID. And at that time, that was the biggest number essentially since the Yuzuki Aikawa retirement show. That was the record. So like again, COVID, so it's very limited. Like it's not a number you can easily put into like the history books, but like that was when Stardom blasted off. Like that was the start of like this company everyone needs to start paying attention to in full force because they got out of a 2020 that was just miserable in so many different ways. And that was the first culmination of Julia and Tam because they were the Wonder of Stardom Championship match. They weren't the world title match, and they main evented that show. Hair versus hair, which, by the way, is a very historic stipulation overall in Joshi as is. So, like, that was the start of, like, Tam's a big draw. We're giving her a top title, all these different things. I just think that's important because a year before that, Tam was not going to be in that spot, plain and simple. Things happened to lead to that, which we'll maybe talk about in a little bit here. But I just wanted to point out those three big shows specifically because those are the big, and she also obviously was a big part of the big Sumo Hall shows as well, multiple times. But those three I just really wanted to say because she was the main event that set records twice. You know, and now has the biggest record for her ultimate retirement show.
As you can probably see, Scotty, I was doing a lot of last second calculations here while you were talking there. The top 10 record attendances in Stardom. I was looking at that on my list here and seeing, you know, how some names shape up. Tam Nakano, she is in 5 of the top 10 top of the cards in Stardom history, 4 of which are main events, and
including number 1
and number 3, which is against Julia.
At
All-Star Queendom 2023.
Number 3 was the record. Then they did the All-Star Queendom this year and Sumo Hall this year.
Correct.
Both beat it. Yes.
Yeah. Number 2 being Saya Kamitani Sayori New Dream Queendom. Just
I
at the
refuse to give that credit as that big number, but okay.
Yeah. Obviously, Japan. We all know the trick.
That one's funny to like read out in a line. Like you're looking at all the main events right now, right? It's like, oh, this and that. Saya Kamitani Sayori New.
All right,
like,
good.
That's what it's gonna be like in like 5 years.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Saya Kamitani, another example. She's in 6 of the top 10.
Shocker.
Three main events, including the first and second one, obviously, as we just said.
Saya Kamitani, fun fact, been pushed for a long time. I think people forget it.
Mayu is in 3 of the top 10, one of which is a main event. Io is in 1. It's only a semi.
Yeah, the Aikawa one. Yeah.
That is it's not. It is the alpha female one, semi-main event.
No. But that's the Aikawa show. My apologies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
No, she didn't face
Yoshiko Aikawa show. Yeah.
Sorry,
talking about who she wrestled.
No, I know who she wrestled.
Yeah. And I don't think it was necessarily Io Shirai. That was, not necessarily the draw or alpha female.
No. That's why they weren't in the main event.
And then Julia has 3 of the top 10 placements in Stardom's
All
history.
mains?
All mains,
Yeah.
one of which being the 3rd
Yeah.
highest.
She was like that, man. She was like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So I think, we threw a bunch of data, and I think it's a question of data analysis here is what kind of level of draw is Tam Nakano? Is she a Hall of Fame draw? And what is the sort of, we talked about it with the Becky Lynch stuff at the very top. What is the length of time that we're willing to give her? Is it, I brought up that she's a top 5 attendance holder in 2018, but this is also when the company is still pretty small at that point, average attendance of 418. Are we going to give it to her from that 2020, really 2021, I guess, if you want to talk attendance stuff onward? We're going to say I can say maybe 2-3 years is what I would probably give her, and that's not necessarily a great length when it comes to this Hall of Fame. But what is the sort of analysis that we can pull from all this data? What is going through your head in terms of, is she a Hall of Fame level draw? Is a too small of a window? What are we looking at here?
When she retired, I called her Stardom's greatest draw ever. She was she had the biggest of, I know things have changed since then, and Saya Kamitani's only become bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting part as years go on, especially.
It's also important who made that happen. I could tell you, Tam made sure that happened. That entire story is Tam. That's how we got there. And even when Tam's not here, it's all I have to hear about in the stories. But
which as we move, we'll still talk about this obviously, but move into historical significance. That is something that will play out more. That as Saya Kamitani becomes this thing, the person that helps build up that next star is Tam.
Yeah. I called her their greatest draw when she retired. I think that was her great accolade, to the point where I said, for the longest time, I think Stardom's Mount Rushmore was Io, Mayu, and then up for debate on the last 2 spots, because people love Mount Rushmores. When Tam retired, I said it's undeniably Tam as the 3rd name on that list. That is how I feel about that Mount Rushmore, and that's how I continue to feel. I know we are in a very interesting time where Saya Kamitani is this undeniable superstar that is going to, continue setting records until I'm told otherwise. But it just doesn't happen without Tam. I'm not even sitting here as the biggest Tam Nakano fan, but I watched it happen in real time. She just always brought people into the goddamn building. You went over the numbers. And at the end of the day, the biggest number in the company's history is because of what, Ryan? It's because of her retirement match. That is what it was. And that is a massive, massive deal. Obviously it's not Hiroshi Tanahashi numbers. I'm not trying to say that, but you have to look at this in a completely different lens. A completely different
lens.
It's
a smaller promotion.
Until Stardom beats that number, which, hey, they could beat it in April. I don't know. That's the role they're on, right? They could. But until they beat that number,
to be clear, the Tam retirement number, not the Tokyo Dome number.
Fun fact. No company can technically beat out a sold out Tokyo number in Japan. That's the big one.
Just didn't feel it. I felt the need to clarify it for
sense. No, not counting on that. Thank you. But I still think Tam is, to me, Stardom's greatest draw. The other 2 have different feelings and different traits and adjectives you can give them, but I think Tam, and the reason she is on the Mount Rushmore, is because of her drawing power first and foremost. So I think that does her a lot of good, and especially for a company that, as she became a main eventer, it became bigger and bigger and bigger, right? It coincides, and I think that does a lot of good for her as well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think if I had to pinpoint a trouble point for Tam, it's the length. It's the length more than anything. But I also think I'm thinking
It's 5 years. That's her length.
her length is 5 years, but I'm also thinking 5 years from now, let's say Saya Kamatani continues this level of thing.
Sure,
Saya
sure.
Kamatani is going to be if Saya Kamatani keeps the pace that she is on, she will probably become the biggest draw in the history of
Yeah,
Stardom's thing.
for sure.
That is, if you're looking at that, but Tam Nakano will be up there. I think is
Yeah.
the bigger point that we're
I
sort
don't
of
think
making.
Tam will fall far. It's just she may
No,
not be feel like the number one anymore. Like like I said, as someone who's followed Stardom since essentially Tam became a main eventer, like that is when I started when Tam started to join the spotlight.
yeah,
Um, it was just her. Like if it's a Tam main event, it's a big show. Like
yeah,
that's kind of the feeling towards it. And I think that maybe to anyone listening could be like the biggest thing I could say is like if she was in a main event, it's like, okay, this is a big deal. Um and it really, she had Saya and Julia there most of the time with her,
hmm
which is funny, but I do think that's just notable. Like Bushi Road had a different set four to be their biggest four stars. Things happened to make sure that not make sure, but that didn't allow that to happen,
yeah,
and thus led to Tam becoming one of the big four. And I think that's like a fascinating thing that a lot of people may not know is like you may just know about Tam Nakano and that she was a big star and she had this big show and this unbelievable retirement ceremony that Hiroshi Tanahashi retired within less than a year. Just saying, he copied the disappearing of the smoke. I just want everyone to remember that. But like Tam wasn't supposed to be the big main eventer.
yeah. She wasn't supposed to win the World of
She
Stardom
was
title.
never supposed to win the world title, let alone twice.
Yeah.
Like, I still remember when she won, everyone's like, huh? What do you mean Julius runs over? What are you talking about? And obviously, stories have come out about that, that are neither here nor there, but it doesn't matter because Tam just went
Yeah.
and went and went and went. But like, you know, I bring up the four. I should bring it up like when Bushiroad bought Stardom, their top four stars to build around were going to be Mayu Iwatani, Julia, Arisa Oshiki, and Hana Kimura. Hana Kimura sadly passed away. Arisa Oshiki sadly had to retire like 3 months after like
Yeah.
2020 started, and then they had to find a new. So what did they do? They went with Utami Hashishita as like the next big world champion. She won later that year, and then Tam Nakano and Julia became rivals, and the rest is history. Like sometimes right place, right time. It's also there's another thing of like she just had the connection too that made her undeniable. Like I don't want to take away from her in any way either. Like her connection made her the obvious answer in the end.
Yeah, I think we move into sort of the historical significance bracket. And we talk about it. We talked about a lot of different points here. We talked about, your viewing of the Mount Rushmore of Stardom and throwing Tam onto that list here. We're talking about the sort of significant yet small run, but a significant run that significantly brought, I know you're a big proponent in terms of the scope of drawing as who's bringing a lot of eyes. I think it's fair to say that Tam Nakano is a pretty big name that's going to bring a lot of eyes in this company as it grew underneath
Yeah.
her popularity. Even if it's short, it's undoubtedly sweet in the sense that Stardom grew as
Yeah.
a company underneath her. Now, granted, obviously, look, Stardom's still not like the number one company. Well, it's actually
Right.
owned by the number one company
Right.
in Japan.
There's everyone's still far off, but
But
they're
I mean, at this
probably the number
point,
two
I mean,
now.
obviously, 2025 is a little bit different of how
Yeah.
what level of Tam has in that influence. But I don't know that remember the numbers off of my top of my head. I imagine they're two of the year, if not, they're
Yeah,
certainly
they're two.
three.
Yeah, they're two.
Noah would probably be the only one that rivals that.
They were two in 2025.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I
Yeah.
thought. And again, how much significance does Tam have that number? Certainly a good number, but either way,
I
we talked
mean,
about
she helped
significance.
for 7,000 of them for sure.
That's certainly true. Other things that are important for Tam Nakano, if you like accolades and whatnot. 2023 Tokyo Sports Awards winner for Women's Wrestling Grand Prize. Her and Natsupoi were second in Tokyo Sports Best Tag Team. She, in the American Award, she does all right comparatively. Obviously, wrestling against American names and Japanese MVP and stuff, not for the Observer. There's other men that she has to battle as well. But certainly the number one Joshi in 2023 for the Japanese MVP, getting 6th place there. And then 9th place in 2021. So you have this sort of period where she is a significant talking about the canon of professional wrestling, she's a significant name out there for at least 2021 to 2023. Yeah. I think no matter what you slice it, Scotty, I think we're looking at 3 really solid years of Tam Nakano from 2021 to 2023. I'll throw in 2024 as well. And then 2025 is like an asterisk, but I would throw that in there as well.
Yeah.
You can maybe push back as well in the 2020, but that's also when you get a little bit of asterisk territory as
COVID.
Well. Yeah, exactly. So it's like she's bookended by these asterisks. But in terms of wrestling ability, there's a significance from those 3 years of 21 to 23, drawing the significance of 21 to 24 to a degree as well, 2025. How do you, there's significance in terms of inventing a cool way to retire by walking into the smoke and pointing at a far off star.
One of one, man.
One of one. What is this sort of, when you think about the long scope of Stardom, and I guess to a degree Japanese wrestling a whole, what do you think this sort of historical significance Tam Nakano will play down the line? Is it a sort of a precursor to the next generation of big time Joshi stars, bringing Joshi back into the mainstream to a certain degree? Is it this cosmic angel idolness, popularityness, character gimmickness into Joshi wrestling? Is it story, a new aspect of storytelling in Joshi wrestling? What is the sort of thing that you look at in the scope of Joshi wrestling and maybe Japanese wrestling as a whole that you point at and say, I can feel Tam Nakano's fingerprints here? Loaded question. I apologize.
Saya Kamatani as a whole. She's the one that trained her. She's the one that put in the work to make her a major star. Like, this is never going to be like something proven, but every part of the story to build Saya Kamatani as the next big thing is Tam Nakano crafting it and putting it together. That is everything she did. I did a video on Tam after she retired, and I talked about the significance of Tam and everything she did, and I ended it specifically with the final thing she ever did, and her greatest gift was literally Saya Kamatani. Like, her greatest gift to the business is going to end up being Saya Kamatani. I'm not saying that she's 100% deserves all the credit that Saya Kamatani has become. No. But boy, oh boy, does she deserve a chunk of it. There's a reason when Saya Kamatani won the Tokyo Sports MVP, what came out of her mouth? She said, I need to thank Tam Nakano for this. Like, there is something there. And I think when people like look at it in historical significance, again, I look at this in such a different way. We are watching the biggest Joshi star in decades essentially become morph in front of our eyes right now. And that is Saya Kamatani. Saya Kamatani is the biggest star Bushiroad pays right now. Actively. Hiroshi Tanahashi, no longer active, fun fact. Like,
what?
Tam, I know. Tam has as many fingerprints on the growth and the launch of Saya Kamatani as anyone could another wrestler. Besides that, I think it is just the help and the push to bring Stardom into the next level. Like, so many point to Bushiroad and like, oh, well, this is it. Yes, but they needed stars to do that. Who was that star?
I always seen Bushiroad as this massive marketing arm, ultimately, right?
Yeah. But they need to market someone.
They need someone to market.
And they marketed her and Julia.
And it worked.
2 years. And it worked. Every single time you put them in a big main event, guess what? It worked. Just the facts. Like, I remember when they got the All-Star Grand Queen the main event, which was at the time, the biggest attendance ever for Stardom, which was 2023. People were like,
way,
really?
I don't really think we gave those numbers. 5,500, 5,539 is what that number was. The number one attendance right now of Saya Kamatani and Tam Nakano's retirement, 7,503 is what that is.
Yes, so they essentially added 2,000 to it 2 years later. But like, my main point here is when that match got announced, like that was the clear direction for a show that they were trying to make. Hey, we want this to be the biggest show in Stardom history. Like that was the absolute message. That was the obvious match to go with. And I remember people at the time were like, "Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like we just did this. It was the 5-star Grand Prix final, and obviously the previous years had plenty of them. But it's because they were the biggest drawing rivalry. They're the biggest drawing match. Tam Nakano became that answer, and ultimately from that she became world champion. But like her historical significance is so important to Stardom's boom. So important to Stardom's boom. In ways that while she was the secondary player in 2021 as the Wonder of Stardom champion, she was also the main player. She got that big main event on the biggest attendance that year. And then, she was a champion and so on and so forth, and bringing in numbers, like you said. But at the same time, it's also just everything she gave to, I think, Joshi, which was the way she tells stories, the importance of the way she does interviews and the way she does things like that. Like I think that is historically significant because it is now how a lot of these Joshi wrestlers try to tell their stories. Like we've gotten to a point where like people check Tokyo Sports every week, right? Like they put Tokyo Sports posts hundreds of articles a day. It's a news company at the end of the day, right? But people are checking Tokyo Sports to see like, are there going to be like big quotes to take from this? And it's been that way really since then. Like that is a fascinating way to do these things, but that is the way it's shifted. And I think Tam's a big part of that. She shifted the way to tell stories in Joshi, and I think in some ways Japanese wrestling. I'm not going to give her the full credit for like the world of like using social media, because guess what? Anyone could use social media to do literally anything they want. I see it every day.
I'd argue at this point in 2026,
For
it's
better or worse.
emphasis on worse, but
yeah. But like, I think that is what she did. And I think when like historical significance is such a big, important thing, but Dave Meltzer, it comes from Dave Meltzer. He said like, that's the greatest retirement thing I've ever seen. Like it was like a movie. And it's like, will they ever be able to top that? Like Hiroshi Tanahashi obviously had the unbelievable match in the normal ceremony. Tam Nakano is one of one. She decided, I don't want a ceremony. I don't want any of this stuff. I am gonna point up at the stars. I'm gonna have feathers falling from the sky, and the lights are gonna go out, and I will be gone forever. It's gonna be historically significant because it's one of the most remembered retirements we will ever see. Like people were talking about that for days. People are still talking about that. I just did the 5-star Joshi Awards. People, trust me, are still voting for that. Don't you worry. I mean, they're over now, but boy, oh boy, like
how did they do on the awards? How did her retirement
show? They won Rivalry of the Year. The rivalry lasted 4 months, buddy. Not even. It lasted 2 because the rivalry stopped for like 2 months because like
because also part of that rivalry is that like she like a loser leaves Stardom thing, and then she was gone, and
it
was a little bit also, a little janky, a little bit, but
a little janky. But that's Tam Nakano, baby. That's this like she was always a little off the hinge, a little crazy, and that's what set her apart. Her being a little off the hinge, a little crazy, a little overboard. As Ryan knows, I've heard him review her matches. Like that is what she was. And I think, the Cosmic Angels and the historical significance there is like the top seller and the, the big money grab, but like the big merch seller and the idea of like the idol kind of idols have always been in Joshi famously. But like in so many ways she kind of brought that back a little bit, like the super popularity of it, maybe. It's a you gave me a very long-winded question, so I'm giving you a long-winded answer. That's the only way.
Nailing it. I think
that's the only way we do it. Okay, that's good because I kind of I threw a lot of stuff at there because listen, this is Tam Nakano. If I'm not a little bit everywhere, then I'm not doing it right. I think she also has the historical significance of this. Stardom has not told a significant story since she's left. like,
Yeah,
like
we talked about a lot on Ring Post Radio this year, where and I think a lot of people have talked about in other places as well, is that the year sort of became, once Tam left, it was just sort of like the year of
Saya
hating Saya
Kamatani's cool, huh?
Kamatani. And so it
Yeah,
was
like,
kind of
let's
like,
do it
yeah,
all.
Saya Kamatani is cool and she's a big star. We're gonna ride this
Yeah,
until it's kind of stops to a degree.
right.
And it was and then pushing for like the Tokyo Sports
Is
Awards,
one of
all
the
this sort of
most
thing.
impressive autopilots in the history of professional wrestling.
Yeah. look, we have had long-winded conversations about hamster wheeling in professional wrestling. I've never seen a more successful hamster wheel in my life.
No,
But it was,
it's so true though.
But it is the thing of like, everything's working. We don't really have to do
Right.
anything. I
But
would say
she's
you
still
should
being
strike
used
while
in
the iron's
story.
hot to a certain degree. But
Here, I'll just say this. For their end of the year show, what was the big talking point for that rivalry? Tam Nakano. What's the merch they're selling right now starting at that event? Remember Tam. Like, she's not dead. But like, in the idea of kayfabe and the idea of what she was, the essence, the legend of Tam Nakano, we'll say, will hang over this company forever because they want it to. They want you to talk about Tam and remember Tam and never forget. That's what it says. I think it says never forget Tam. I'm like, I'm not gonna. You don't let me.
do you think, and this is sort of it leading to another question I have as we sort of go to a wrapping up point of the show. Do you think Tam will return? They pushing it down of
You know why? We gotta sell a Tokyo Dome.
that Saya Kamatani and Tam Nakano would be the Tokyo Dome main event 100% if they decide to go run the Tokyo Dome.
It's gotta be, right? Like,
It's gotta be.
This is a thing that's seriously debated amongst me and people I respect. Like, how do you sell it? Oh, yeah. By the way, it does say never forget Tam. Oh my god!
Is her the Alamo?
No, hold on. This keychain says Tam Memorial since July 18, 2016 to April 27, 2025. Yeah, okay.
She's dead. I remember you said that on Ring Post Radio. She's dead. She's dead.
She is. Like, never forget Tam. It's like, who does that?
The return has to be Tam Nakano, the whole feather gimmick, her coming down from the ceiling, Sting like an angel.
It's gotta
be in the dome, by the way, in the dome.
So
Shawn Michaels, she's doing the Shawn Michaels Undertaker thing where she's getting lowered from the heavens.
Would it be absolutely perfect if she just ends her career like that? Yes. But this is professional wrestling. And I did a Joshi predictions thing here. You can check out on youtube.com/Scotty Wrestling. And my big Stardom prediction was Tam Nakano will reappear. I wasn't going to say wrestle, but she will reappear. She will come back from the dead. Like, that is kind of like what I expect. Why? Because I don't know how a figure that was this big just vanishes like that forever. I just don't.
Yeah.
And
the fact that they're selling merch. The fact that they're selling merch gives credence to this idea that she might be coming back at some point. Like, it could easily have just been, I will have this big time match and then I will be fully gone for a year and then I will come back.
Exactly. All these months later. And listen, I don't honestly, most Tam fans will say, please come back. Like, it's not even like, oh, I'm so obsessed she came back. It's like, no, you ended your thing like a movie. Guess what? You can come back like a movie.
Yeah. Because that's for all we know, she comes back.
Fun fact, Ring Post Radio, movie podcast. Anyways.
for all we know, she can come back at All Star this April.
Yeah.
That would be a year since she's gone.
When they run the Tokyo Dome, they need something massive. That is Tam Nakano to me. That is the massive. And maybe that helps her case a lot too. It's like just the idea that if Tam shows up, we know it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I think she comes back. I do.
Yeah.
Because there's still something there. And they still bring her up. And we're never forgetting her for a reason.
Yeah. They want us to not forget her for a reason. We have to imagine. Sort of a new
I'm
question I
trying.
thought of that I want to ask our guests on this season of the ballot, and I'm going to throw it at you first, Scotty. Here is in a effort to be sort of objective, and obviously I always look to guests that have some sort of connection or can speak from a knowledge base, but in an effort of objectivity to a degree, I do want to ask what let's say it's not the perfect case, and I don't think anyone has a perfect slam dunk case.
Not anymore.
I mean, really anymore. There's always these aspects of everything, but the sort of thing of what would need to happen if you think, let's be objective here. What would need to happen for Tam Nakano to get into the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame? Is it knowledge base of Joshi wrestling and Tam Nakano having to expand? Is it her returning and adding more drawing data and more drawing evidence to her career? Is it her coming back and she's now all of a sudden a Hall of Fame worker and she's been in the dojo working super hard and on her tumbles and then resetting by listening to Matt Bloom? What is the sort of thing on an objective level that you think that would need to happen to help get her into the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame?
A complete overhaul of how women are treated when it comes to the
Oh boy, starting out spicy, Scotty.
I mean, you and me have had this conversation for the past number of years, and I'm going to say it now. There is a significant problem, I think, when it comes to the ballot every year of how women's wrestlers are voted for or not voted for, I should say. I think so much of the time, while men's wrestlers have it a little bit easier. I mean, Zack Sabre Jr. is probably a year away from making it, and I think that's crazy in my brain. But like, Mercedes Moné is how many years away from even having that potential, Like, that to me is crazy. Crazy. But like, that's the reality. That is the reality we currently live in, Ryan. It's like, I know this is about Tam Nakano, but this is just the overarching problem. Like, I'm truly, I'm very happy I have a ballot. I'm going to say that first and foremost. It's an honor to have a ballot. It's really cool to have a ballot. But like, moving forward, my care is about getting the women in who are Hall of Fame level women's wrestlers, whether it be for their historical significance, whether it be for their drawing, their in-ring, whatever it may be. Because I think right now, at the number it stands, it is lacking. And there are so many women's wrestlers on the ballot right now, before even adding a TAM, that need to be in. So that's what I think needs to change for Tam Nakano to ever have a chance. Yes, would it be great that people have better knowledge of Joshi wrestling and the growth it's had over the past number of years? Absolutely. But objectively, I do think that needs to change. And if that makes me the bad guy, if that makes me lose a ballot, whatever. Like, truly, I am voting for the women's wrestling world at this point because they need the respect that they have earned, right? We have watched over the past decade, especially in America, right? Women's wrestling really get way more respect. It needs to pay off in things like this, historical types of things that people go to, right? Like we've said many times, when you look at, I heard your cat throwing me off.
You heard my cat?
Yeah, but I keep rolling. But
Jude is not happy.
Like, so much of the Hall of Fame is like AJW all-time greats and like Mildred Burke. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like, it was like Aja Kong in like 06 or something, and then like not until the Beauty Pair, I'm pretty sure, which was 2 years ago for a women's Hall of Famer. It's not that's crazy to me. Like, I know Kyoko Inoue is returning to this thing. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of her work, but yeah, okay, sure, she should probably be in. Mercedes Moné, you and me have had that conversation. You did it last year. We're not going to do it again. Becky Lynch, you and me have had that conversation. We kind of did it on this show. Like,
to a degree, yeah.
Like, there are so many, and I will have the discussion about Io Shirai again if I have to. Don't make me, but I will if I have to. But I think that's it, because I don't think this is a based on like the Japan section or the modern section. Like that's not it to me, because once Io didn't make it on a Japan section that I think was as easy as it should be, like, and the percentage she got specifically, like I knew she wasn't going to get in first year. I'm a
Yeah, me
realist. I
neither. Me
understand what's
too.
going to happen. But when I saw her percentage and when I saw the Mercedes percentage and all these different percentages, I said to myself, man, we are so far off. We are so far off from this changing. And that, to me, objectively, is what needs to change for someone like Tam Nakano to get it.
Yeah, she doesn't have the WWE eyes that Io Shirai has, or even like Mercedes or Becky, obviously,
Or the New Japan eyes.
or even New Japan eyes. It is such a small period. And look, there are issues of just like in terms of smaller.
Yeah, I'm not calling Tam a
sort of
perfect
thing.
candidate. This is more like me supporting, like,
No, I totally agree
you
with you.
know,
I'm
like,
I agree with you in the sense that like there is, you know, and we've talked about it. I'm sure when this episode comes out, we will have already talked about it for our year-end in review, 2025 year-end review for Ring Post Radio, about
we
that
sure
there
will.
is like this sort of different viewpoint of women's wrestling in a
Yeah.
modern sense, and when it comes to like tag team and regular men's singles wrestling as well, that it has always been a thing, has always been the case, and it's difficult because it is until in the past several years where women's wrestling gets more of a
Eyes.
better share of
Appreciation.
the wrestling card and
Yeah.
appreciation and eyes towards everything. And Tam Nakano was someone that certainly brought those eyes when it came to Stardom. Yeah, look,
Listen,
if she comes back and she's able to be a big time deal, that's only going to help her case even more.
I just want to say, like, this one
But it's
thing
the
that's
thing of what that if Tam Nakano, and that's I think to sorry, just to drive
drive the
home
point.
your point here.
Drive it home.
If Tam Nakano comes back and she has like 2, 3, 4 more years of being like a big time star,
Yeah.
in Stardom,
Sure.
how much of an effect will that have on the Wrestling Observer Newsletter voting body?
Minimal.
When it comes to how many people are going to pay attention to Joshi wrestling,
Minimal.
I think it will play something,
Yeah.
but I don't know how.
Not
Like
enough that it should.
I don't.
It,
I think that's your point here.
let's be real here, Ryan. If she comes back, and that's a big if, okay? Big if. If she comes back, it's probably for a Tokyo Dome main event, which would be the first Joshi Wrestling Tokyo Dome event in 30 years.
Which should be extremely historic. Would be
It will be.
extremely
It will be.
significant.
But to me, I don't.
And these are a lot of ifs, to be fair. But yes.
Yes. But like, I don't think that will dramatically change things enough, because there is just a reality we live in here when it comes to not just Joshi, but women's wrestling first, then Joshi. It's like so you're already hurt once, right?
You have a lack in faith in the voting body, basically.
I do. And I will keep saying that. And like I said, if my ballot was taken away, I feel like I was proven right.
It's kind of a catch 22. It's more like a catch 22, if you will.
I've had these conversations with people that I'm not going to share the names of people, but I've had these conversations with people, and I've said, moving forward, I am voting to vote the women's wrestlers in that should get it. That is my number one goal when I put a ballot in, because at least I'm doing my part. You know, shouts out to the Tim Robinson. I'm doing my part. Yeah. Sorry, I had to. But like, there's so many Joshi fans that look at this, and wrestling fans that look at this that aren't voters. They're just fans. And at the end of the day, I think that should matter. They're just fans, and they say, how is Becky Lynch on it? How is Io that low? How is Mercedes that low? Because if you've been a fan over the past decade, they've been as big a names as anyone.
Yeah.
Truthfully. So to me, even if she comes back, even if she does the Tokyo Dome, while I do think they'll help her for sure, like, it would give her a nice little bump, should be a bigger bump. You know, like, if she's in a Tokyo Dome that sells 15,000 tickets or more, which I know is like not massive for Tokyo. I'm just being real.
People are going to immediately compare it to New Japan's Tanahashi, which I think will be,
which is egregious, by the way.
Yeah.
Let me know what the Tokyo Dome looks like next year when there's no Tanahashi and no Okada and no Naito. They'll bring Naito back by then, and this will be a stupid conversation. But like, I just think I want things to change. And if I don't say them out loud, maybe they won't. Maybe they will. I don't know.
I think that's a very honorable plea, Scotty. I fully respect the plea.
You call me the worst. I don't care. I care.
I call you
I
anything,
do.
buddy.
Not you specifically. Just anyone that listens to this. But like, I do this. My content world is Joshi wrestling.
Yeah.
And on a bigger scope, that's women's wrestling. Do you think I really care about anything else? No. Like, I watch other things. We do Ring Post Radio every week. It's a great time. I have a hoot. I say things about Evil that I'll never say publicly. Like, you're right. Like, it's a great time. But at the end of the day, what I do this for is, and I've said this since I started doing Joshi content, is I do it to help push them as little as I can, just as one person, to more eyes. So yeah, it matters to me how this voting goes. It matters to me what Tam Nakano gets in her first year and what Io gets in her second, and so on and so forth. I've had a lot of long-winded answers tonight.
No, I like it. I like it. Well, let's put that to the test. I know. I once I realized I look, I know how
you asked that question knowing what I was going to say.
100%. Let's put that to the test, Scotty. Here is the Japan vote, like we do with every podcast.
23.9 should probably be better than I expected, but
to me, you're talking about that 23.9 is the percentage that Io Shirai got in her debut on the ballot. I think that's pretty reasonable in terms of like a debut.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
There's room. There's room for. I think she would. Next year we'll see if there's more votes. So I feel like she'll do better next year.
Ryan, the other problem is like she has the WWE like boost, and that's all she's getting. Like that's the problem, right? Like if that's only gonna get her there,
she's got places to be.
I'm in big trouble.
Well, you get, the deal. This is the Japan vote. I'll read off the names and everything. You have 15 acts here, 5 votes available. The names in question, like we said, it's everyone that was on it last year. No one fell off in any way. No one got in. No one fell off. Same names from last year, except 4 people are coming on. It's Hayabusa, Zack Sabre Jr., the tag team of Manama Toyota and Toshiya Yamada, Tiger Jeet Singh, Yoshiaki Fujiwara, Io Shirai, Yoshihiro Takayama, Masaki Mochizuki, Meiko Satomura, Antonio Inoki, and Seiji Sakaguchi, their tag team. And of course, the famous tag team, Satoshi Kojima and Hiroshi Tenzan. The new people coming to the ballot are Kenta and Tam Nakano, who we just spoke about. And returning to the ballot are the great Sasuke and Kyoko Inoue. Scotty, you have 5 votes. You don't have to use all of them, but who would you vote for? So in January of this year, right now.
Yeah. Thanks. So this is still like the weighted thing, right? Like
what do you
less votes in like a section helps someone. Like they've changed it, and I still kind of like for Japan last year, for example. I'll be perfectly honest with the people. I only voted for Io because I hoped that would give her a boost.
Yeah, it's. I think I know what you're talking about. It's sort of like the way. Are you talking about sort of like the weighted aspect of?
Yeah.
If you do like a no vote, but you're not abstaining, you're essentially voting for no button, and it's gonna hurt the percentages of everyone else to a degree.
Right.
Yeah, in that sense, yes. I see. The answer is yes to what you're talking about, I believe. So you could. Are you going to vote for just Io Shirai again?
No.
I know you are going to vote for Io Shirai, so I'll just mark that off.
I have 5 now. Five makes me feel like I can do 3.
Yeah, that's fair. So obviously everyone I think on this podcast can guess Io Shirai, number 1 for Bullet. Who else?
I'm going to give Mako my vote back.
Yes, you didn't vote for Mako. I know you voted for Mako not last year, but the year prior, and then you didn't vote for this year. Is there any explanation as to why, or
just because I think Io should have made it in right off the rip? I think Mako, in ring wise speaks for itself. A lot of people actually a lot of Joshi people were really mad at Mako's placement this past year. And I'm going to vote for Tam Nakano.
There we go. Tam Nakano. And just those three. You're not. Are you going to think about 4 and 5? I mean, Kyoko Inoue is there. Toyota and Yamada are there. I know that's the other Joshi people. There's other people obviously on here. But
I was going to say, Ryan, you can figure out pretty. I think all 5 Joshi nominees here are Hall of Fame worthy. You know, Kyoko Inoue is a AJW top star. You know, like she was. Has some historically great matches, all that. Mako's phenomenal. I've seen her. I've watched her retire. Tam, I've lived, so there is a very personal bias as well.
Sure.
But I think her importance in getting Stardom to where they are deserves a vote. EO is EO. You can, if you really want to hear my EO thoughts, go and listen to the Ballot episode from last year. See, nice plug for you, Ryan.
I appreciate it.
And Toyota and Yamada, for me, I feel like I don't even have to vote for them because they're going to keep going up. I'm pretty confident at 33.8 they're just going to keep going up. That tag team, for those who don't know, is like kind of like you looked at this. I remember because you had messaged me about it. It's like they didn't have like a super long run. No, they did not as a duo. But they were a fantastic tag team. So like their in-ring speaks for itself. But to me, like the historical significance of Tam Nakano, the everything of EO, the in-ring of Mako, those lead for me in terms of who I'm going to give a vote to. People can listen to this and be like, why don't you give it to Kyoko? Why don't you give it to Toyota? Honestly, probably, Ryan, now that I have 5 votes, I'll probably just vote for all of them. But right now, in January, mind you, this is how I'm feeling. I'm going to change about 74 times before we get there. But for now, I'm going to go with those 3 because, one, I talked about Tam today, and I feel like every time I come on these shows, I talk myself into it as is. And you know what? I think
that's the beauty of the Ballot, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I think and this isn't, and I want to say just on my stuff earlier, I have no problem with like other people voting for the Hayabusas of the world. I want that to be known. Yeah. I just need the women wrestlers on these ballots to get a better boost than they have had. And to me, that makes my ballot more important for them.
This ballot at the end of the day too. You want for sure. You think that women's wrestling should be better represented on this ballot, and to do that
in the Hall of Fame,
in the Hall of Fame,
yeah.
To do that, voting for only the women's wrestlers will help that cause.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. Like, there's a good chance like Samoa Joe like will sneak on. I think, like, if we're being real, like I love to
vote for Samoa Joe. You're not an insane person. You're not gonna
no. Like, but like when it comes to it, like I'm gonna vote for Becky. I'm gonna vote for Mercedes, and I'm gonna vote. I didn't vote in historical, but is it June
Byers?
If I voted in historical, she's in historical, correct?
Yes.
I would vote for her. Well, I didn't know she was in modern. Modern and historical blend in my brain. Because like I'll look at it like there's a lot of people. But like I would vote for her. You know, like there's a common thread here. And that's I will say this. I will not vote for Trish Stratus.
Thank you. I was like, we need to clarify one thing for people. I think at this point,
like, yeah, there's. To me, it's like I am voting for those who I believe are Hall of Fame worthy. First off, like that is part of it. I'm not just going to be like, oh, I think that's
why right now you're not thinking of Kyoko Inoue, because you're like, I need to do more research, and or like there's not reaching a threshold where you're like, yes, 100%.
Yeah, like I've not lived, I've not watched enough Kyoko Inoue to sit here and tell you it's a must. I know historically, like, top of the line, beloved wrestler. Dave gave her plenty of 5s back in the day. So like, honestly, when I see her name, I'm kind of shocked she's not in, based on like other AJW stars that are. Just
she came on the ballot 2020, got 10% or less and fell off.
Yeah,
sorry. She got 10% in 2020 and then fell off in 2021 by getting less than 10%.
Interesting. Very interesting. But like I'm gonna do more homework throughout the year. But like you're asking me for my gut check, I'm giving you my gut check, you know? And it's those three in the Japan ballot. It would be Becky and Mercedes in the other one because those two have certainly done nothing to hurt my belief in them, and I think their historical significance speaks for themselves as well. So that is all. What did Tam Nakano used to say? Oh, like, never mind. I'm not gonna say it. But I'm happy that you could rile me up for an hour and 44 minutes. I'm happy you could have me on as your first guest so that people are like, okay, well, it's easy to follow this guy. I'm happy to set that stage for you, Ryan.
Oh yeah,
So
I always appreciate it.
You set a bar, I set to the low. Everyone just needs to take some free throws and you'll be fine. You'll get ahead of me. But hey, that's why we do Ring Post Radio, baby. Ryan brings out the angry side of me very well.
If you appreciate this dialogue between Scotty and I, Ring Post Radio, can't recommend it enough.
You know, can I just say this real quick before we go?
Yeah, of course.
There is like some Joshi fans that are like, oh, he hates Tam Nakano. Boy, oh boy, I can't wait till they hear this episode.
I feel like the course of this episode is you talking yourself more into Tam Nakano as a vote.
Well, funny enough, you were talking to me at a perfect time. I miss Tam Nakano desperately in Stardom these days. Like, I know they're hot company, I know all this, but like, man,
you want something different a little bit. And there's always going to be a different juice of Tam.
Yeah, I miss her and Julia, admittedly. I know Julia is still active, but you know.
Who's her manager or tag partner?
Who cares?
Is it Tatum Paxley? Is that her name?
I don't think that's true.
She's with someone. I don't remember.
She for sure is. The person wears a suit.
I know, yeah. She wears a suit, and that's all there's other things.
I did watch Julia hit a brainbuster on Jordan Grace in the snow the other day.
I did see that too, and I was like, yeah, now we're talking.
I was like, that's a better match than most of the matches that WWE runs. Anyways, thanks for having me.
Of course, Scotty. It's been a pleasure as always talking to you. Before you give all the plugs, I just want to say here, thank you everybody for listening to this episode. If you have any sort of reactions, comments, questions,
don't tell me about them.
tell me about them, Scotty. 9495 Ballot is the not the Ring Post Radio, the Ballot hotline. 9495 Ballot. That's 949-522-5568. Give us a ring. Give us a call. What's your reaction to the conversation about Tam Nakano? How do you see Tam Nakano as a person on the ballot this year? How do did this conversation convince you? Did this conversation leave you wanting more? Was there something specific where you're like, I would like to hear more about this? Let us know. Again, 9495 Ballot, aka 949-522-5568. Scotty, please tell the people where they can find you. Give us the old classic podcast etiquette of Scotty. Give us some plugs.
Hell yeah. I'll have a fresh plug up here. So you can follow me on Twitter, Blue Sky at Scott E Wrestling if you fancy. Go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/at Scott E Wrestling. I post new Joshi content on a weekly basis, including coming out of the end of the year, the new year, a lot of stuff. My most recent video, by the time this comes out, is probably still the Joshi predictions for 2026, but also the 5-star Joshi Awards. But since we had a nice conversation here, Ryan, I do remember that back 7 months ago, I did a video called Tam Nakano's Legacy, a personal look at Stardom's Twilight Dream, which I recorded all by myself for 1 hour and 33 minutes. So if you want Tam Nakano's entire journey from someone who is up and down with her as a fan, truly, that's what that was. That's why I called it a personal look, because I wasn't going to do the all stars and rainbows version, but I was going to do the respectful Stardom's going to miss this person, all these different things. And I think that kind of really helps this conversation.
It's a nice companion piece. It'll be in the description of this podcast episode for sure.
Absolutely helps my thoughts be more clear than Ryan poking and prodding me, because that was thought out. This was like, all right, I'm gonna come in here with some ideas. I had a point to make, by the way, that I had Ryan send me data for. Never made it. Didn't matter, but that's what we do, baby.
I got you on a different track.
Yeah, which honestly I preferred because I got mad. So hey, thanks for having me.
Of course, Scotty. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Again, folks, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the Ballot. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this month's episode of the Ballot. We'll be back for sure next week. Not next week. We'll be back next month talking about a brand new member of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Ballot. I can tell you right now, hasn't been recorded yet, but I can tell you that it's a wrestler. And I already have a guest for it. And it's also going to be another returning guest, assuming that everything works out. Scotty knows this. I don't like talking about my guests until the things are recorded, but it's lined up for next month and for a returning guest. There's a pretty obvious, if you look at all the new people, Scotty, for this season, there's a pretty obvious wrestler that can only have one guest for that happens to be returning. And if you can figure out that piece of the puzzle, good luck, folks. But I'm excited for this season. There are a lot of people that I have sort of knowledge of that are interested in doing the show. There's some handshake agreements via email that I have lined up guests to doing the show this season with specific names, wrestlers already attached to those specific podcast names. Scotty is showing me a picture. Is that a picture of Yoda Tsuji Forbidden Door poster? What was that?
New Beginning USA, actually.
New Beginning USA. Good for Scotty. He'll be there live and in person. So thank you, everybody, for listening to this month's episode of The Ballot. Next month, we'll be back talking about an all-new wrestler joining us on The Ballot. Until then, we'll talk to you all later. Goodbye, everybody. The Ballot podcast was recorded and produced by myself, Ryan Knightsey, as part of the Count Out Wrestling Podcast Network. Please rate, subscribe, and most importantly, review the show wherever podcasts are found. If you would like to leave a comment, question, or reaction to an episode, please drop us a line at 9495-BALLOT or 949-522-5568. Otherwise, you can contact us at countoutnetwork@gmail.com. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you next time on The Ballot. Ring Post Radio is the only show hosted by Ryan Knightsey and Scotty Edwards that talks about the entire world of professional wrestling. With new episodes coming out every Sunday, there is absolutely no reason to not listen to real, honest wrestling opinions from two crazy maniacs. Have a hot boy summer and listen along to Ring Post Radio every Sunday on the Count Out Network. This has been a Count Out podcast.